Welcome to the Darlington Raceway, the oldest major super speedway in the United States today. And we're just moments away from the start line of the granddaddy of all of major stock car racing, the Southern 500. Strung out behind me are 44 of the fastest cars to make this race. And what a race it should be, because on the pole today is Charlie Glotzback, who qualified at a speed of 144.830, and right next to him is Cale Yarborough, the winner of 3 major super speedway races this year, who also qualified at 144.830. It's the first time in history that's ever happened in stock car racing. And now let's set the field for you. In addition to that first row that has Glotzback and Cale Yarborough, on the inside of row 2, Darrell Derringer, and on the outside, Leroy Yarborough. Inside of row 3 is Donnie Allison. Outside of him is Richard Petty. Buddy Baker inside of row 4. Paul Goldsmith outside of him. Tiny Lund is on the inside of row 5. Bobby Isaac is on the outside of row 5. Bud Moore is on the inside of row 6. And James Hilton is on the outside of row 6. And they're coming down now to take the green flag. And the race, the granddaddy of them all for stock car racing, is just about underway. The green flag is out. Down the front straightaway they come, 22 rows of 2. And it is an official start, and Cale Yarborough stands on it right away in that 68 Mercury, going into the first turn, takes the lead away from Charlie Glotzback. Glotzback dropping to second, and here comes Richard Petty in the 68 Plymouth. In car number 43, the blue one up high, and he has moved into third place, so nobody is waiting around here to try to take the early lead. It's a very hot day, the temperature 90 degrees, it's muggy, and perhaps the drivers feel that they want to get out there in front and hang on to it. Let's call in Chris Economaki, editor of National Speed Sport News, who'll be working with us today, and get a quick comment from him on the start as they come to the end of lap 1.
Well, Bill, it's going to be 364 laps, and they really started out fast. Richard Petty started 6th, and he moved right into 3rd place. He looks like he's the young man in a hurry, now in 2nd.
And an interesting thing here is that Cale Yarborough, as a young teenager, first began racing here at Darlington. He had to sneak under the barbed wire in order to get out on the track, but he actually had his first competition here, but ironically enough, he has never won here. So today he starts out very fast on the opening laps and now has the lead. And Petty has moved into 2nd place. Glotzback has dropped back to 3rd, and Leroy Yarborough is in 4th place. So we have a Mercury, a Plymouth, a Dodge, and a Ford in the first 4 places right now. Here's the second group of cars: Darrell Derringer, Buddy Baker, Donnie Allison, and Paul Goldsmith. So we have a group of 4 leading the race, and 4 more right behind them. Leading is Cale Yarborough, then Richard Petty, Charlie Glotzback, and Leroy Yarborough. And as you can see, it's strictly one-lane traffic until you get out of these turns.
That's been the story of Darlington, Bill, the narrowness of the track in the corners. It's a very difficult course on which to pass.
Also today on ABC's Wide World of Sports, you'll be seeing the United States men's and women's Olympic gymnastics trials coming to you from California. And that's the way they stand right now, as Cale Yarborough is being chased by Richard Petty, and Glotzback has dropped back just a little bit behind Petty, and Leroy Yarborough is behind Glotzback.
They're running into the tail enders now, Bill. They're overlapping the slower cars very early in this 500-mile race.
Right, an extremely fast opening pace. The opening speed's around 130 miles an hour average, and that is really something for this 1 3/8 miles. And look at this, 2 cars in trouble up on the rail. That is 07 George Davis, and car number 0, I believe it is. That would be Dr. Don Tarr. What happened, Chris?
Well, these boys aren't used to these high speeds, Bill, and I guess one of the cars just got away from its driver. The yellow flag is out, and Davis is heading for the pits, so Tarr continued on.
Right, he's still out on the track, but I don't know what kind of condition his car will be in. The yellow flag is out because there's debris on the track, so we'll be back with more of the Southern 500 from Darlington in just a moment. After a very thrilling start, Chris, it looks very much like Cale Yarborough wants this one more than anything else he's ever been in.
Well, it's before his hometown crowd, Bill, and I'm sure he wants it, but so does David Pearson. He's starting back in 16th place and has his work cut out for him.
Right, and he's worked himself all the way up to 8th. So let's get back on the track. Well, it looks like we're going to have one more lap of yellow while they get the debris off the track. Gives us an opportunity to get some comments from Richard Petty. A little bit earlier, Chris Economaki talked to Richard. He was our Grand National Champion of last year, set an all-time money-winning record. And so these are his comments before today's race.
How are you going to drive the race, Richard?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm going to try to lead the race as much as I can, but if it's going to overtax me in the car, then I'll probably settle and run along with the crowd for a while and see what's going on.
Richard, there's been newspaper reports published that say that you'd like to see this place plowed up and planted in peas. Is that an accurate quote?
Well, after the last 5 races I've run down here, I would say no.
But before that, you didn't like the place?
Well, before that, our luck was pretty rotten down here. We've run real good, and things just didn't work out. But in the last 4 or 5 races, it seems like the worm's turned, and as long as you can finish good on any track, you're going to like it.
You consider it a dangerous track?
Well, I'd say probably of all the major speedways we run, you're closer to danger here than you are any of the rest of the racetracks, because it 1 3/8 and you run 145, 50 mile an hour, and it makes it real close. You run real close to the fence, and there's not but just a couple of places on the racetrack that you can pass. So by all means, I would say that as far as tearing up a car, it would be more dangerous. Maybe not getting hurt, but as far as tearing up a car.
Is there any one place on the track that's most treacherous?
Not really. You start at the starting line and end up there, and that's about it.
Have a good 500, Richard.
Thank you.
So the green flag is now out following that spin of Dr. Don Tarr and George Davis. Davis is out of the race, but Tarr is still in, and we're running under the green once again, and it's Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, and Leroy Yarborough has moved up into 3rd place. Those first 3 cars not running more than about 2 car lengths from each other. Petty really taking aim on Cale now. And the average speed before the caution light was in the high 130s. However, the overall average is going to be cut down considerably. Look how close Petty is to Cale Yarborough. Chris, how about drafting here at this particular speedway?
No, it doesn't play a part here at Darlington, Bill. The speeds aren't quite that high. You have to get over 150 before it's effective.
And look at this. Richard Petty takes Cale Yarborough on the backstretch just before they go into one-lane traffic into turn number 3. A great piece of driving by Richard Petty, moving Cale Yarborough back into 2nd, and Leroy is now 3rd.
The important ingredient, Bill, is bravura, it looks like today.
And we'll be back with more of the thrilling Southern 500 in just a moment. More than 70,000 fans are here watching the Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway today, a record crowd, and just look at them on the infield watching a whale of a race. Richard Petty leading Cale Yarborough, and Leroy Yarborough is in 3rd place. And David Pearson, right here in car number 17, has moved all the way up from 16th to 8th, so he is charging. But he has a long way to go to overtake the leaders, and there is Cale Yarborough squeezing off Richard Petty in the turn. Leroy thought he might be able to get by there too, and he's also pulled up. As they pass some of the slower cars, you can see the blistering pace that these lead cars have established. Cale Yarborough in 1st place, Richard Petty right behind him, and then Leroy. Darrell Derringer is in 4th. Charlie Glotzback is in 5th. Those 2 cars right there. Then come Goldsmith, Donnie Allison, and Pearson in that order. 35.3 assigned to Cale Yarborough. That converts to 140.226 miles an hour. And look at Petty trying to get by on the inside. And he does it. And he actually shoves Cale into the guardrail. Yarborough's right rear part of the car hit the guardrail. Leroy went right in underneath, so Cale has dropped back to 3rd. And everybody is oohing and eyeing at that bit of driving by Richard Petty. Boy, it just didn't look like he had any room at all, Chris.
I should say so. Cale apparently is not happy with the handling of his car, Bill.
Well, it looks like his pit crew is a little bit anxious. And there we see Leroy moving out to try to get by Richard Petty. Leroy down low in the white car. And Petty won't let him by. He's got to come off it just a bit because of traffic.
E.J. Trevette, number 80, was in some fast company there, Bill.
And as is the tradition of the track, moves down the slower cars, moving to the left side, letting the faster cars go by. Now there is some concern in Cale Yarborough's pit about the condition of the car, so we'll get Chris down there a little bit closer to it in case he does make that pit stop. Leroy now getting by Richard Petty.
So Leroy Yarborough has, for the first time this afternoon, taken the lead in this race. Petty has dropped back to second place. Cale is still third. Darrell Derringer is fourth. Glotzback is fifth. And we're keeping our eye on David Pearson, who is the leader in the Grand National Championship total points so far this year. Bobby Isaac is currently running in second place and needs a high finish here today. Here's Dale Derringer passing Cale Yarborough, so Cale definitely has slowed up. Now, whether it's because he hit the wall, we'll have to just wait and see, but it looks like, in fact, we've got the indication that he's going to be coming into the pits. So that's the reason for slowing down. So Yarborough, who has led this race during the early going, as a matter of fact, took the lead on the very first lap, has slowed way down. Leroy Yarborough, no relation to Cale, is in the lead right now. Richard Petty is right behind him. And here comes Cale's car into the pit area. So let's get down there and get the action and have Chris Economaki tell us about it. Chris?
Here he comes, Bill, into the pits. This is going to be a costly stop. The Wood brothers are working on the car. They're putting some oil in, refueling it, and here's the word. He's going to change all 4 tires on the car. He's not happy with the brand of tires that he started with, and he's changing brands, the right side and the left side as well. With the green flag out, this is going to put him way in arrears and seriously detract from his chance of being able to win this important stock car race in his own backyard, and there he goes.
All right, a long pit stop for Cale Yarborough. And here comes Richard Petty. Chris, if you can get a little bit of a vantage point there and see what he does, and we'll try to put a stopwatch on him. We have just a little bit over 1 minute for Cale. Chris?
Here comes Petty, and I'm a bit away. Let's see what he's going to do. The crew is out, and again, it's right side tires, refueling, but the hood's not going up. Apparently the tires are taking a beating here at Darlington today, Bill.
All right, and getting the fuel in there is quite a job, splashing it over on the side. But Richard looks very calm and cool. Looks like perhaps he might have taken a salt tablet there, even though it appears to be cool. It's about 130 degrees, believe me, inside that car. And out goes Richard Petty after a very efficient pit stop. And we'll be back with more of the Southern 500 in just a moment. Leroy Yarborough in car number 98 has the lead right now as he flashes by. Leroy's been kind of the tough luck racer this year. Although he led at Atlanta and also at Daytona, he has yet to win a major race. For some reason or other, he has not been able to get the checkered flag first. He's in first place. Darrell Derringer is right behind him. Then Paul Goldsmith is in third, and Donnie Allison is in fourth. Derringer being challenged by Goldsmith. And here's Donnie Allison passing Bobby Allison, who's way back in the pack in a little 66 Chevelle, giving way for his brother to go zooming by. Donnie currently in fourth place in the standings. Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty are 1 lap back due to pit stops. So Leroy Yarborough has the lead, and he's hanging on in that 68 Ford. And here's a car in a spin. Car number 52 in a spin, and he is hit broadside. 5, 6 cars, 7 cars involved with an accident, and the caution light is out, and there are cars literally strewn all over the inside apron. Car number 1 is Pete Hamilton. He's getting out of his car. He seems to be all right, but there is a driver lying down on the ground. That is Bobby Mosgrover in car number 52, driver from Keokuk, Iowa, getting out of his car very quickly. We actually saw some flame, and that's the reason that he vacated it so fast. There is H.B. Bailey. His car is damaged on the left front. And let's see if we can pick out some of these others. That's Bobby Isaac. Here's Isaac and Pete Hamilton, a rookie driver. So let's take a look at that again in slow motion. There is the spin and skid. There's the flame coming out. Now Isaac hits him right there. Trantham got through. He's the white car up there. There goes Hamilton in the blue car, number 1. 2 more cars slide. Now up at the top of the screen is Isaac. At this point, it looked like he might be able to keep going, but the finishing touch is put on him by H.B. Bailey. So that just about wound up the afternoon for Isaac. So let's get a word with Bobby Isaac with Chris Economaki. Chris?
The accident which knocked Bobby Mosgrover, H.B. Bailey, John Sears, and Bobby Isaac out of the race has resulted in injuries to Mosgrover. Bobby, you look okay, but you must be disappointed.
Well, it's a real disappointment, Chris. My car was running real good. We were just kind of sitting back to see what would happen to the first pit stop. We made it. It was real good. got back out on the track running good, and a couple of cars got in trouble down there, and it wasn't anything I could do. I came in wide open, just ran into them, and from then on it was just cars hit cars. I guess I got hit 4 or 5 times.
What about your chances for the championship now, Bobby?
Well, they look real slim, so we'll see how David comes out in this race. If he finishes, it'll be kind of, you know, he'll win the championship if he finishes the rest of the year. But if something happens to him before the race is over, he could only gain 3 points of position. Wouldn't be too awful bad.
Well, fine. Better luck next time.
Thank you.
Bobby Isaac, a contender for the championship, out of the race.
And a tough break it was for him, too. A lot of debris on the track, and, of course, the yellow caution light's going to be out for some time. The leaders, Leroy Yarborough, Darrell Derringer, Paul Goldsmith, and Donnie Allison. And there is wreckage all over the inside apron of the track, so it looks like it's going to be a long caution flag for this accident. Bill Fleming along with Chris Economaki at the Southern 500, lap number 125. And in the lead is Leroy Yarborough, and Donnie Allison is in second place. Cale Yarborough is trying to unlap himself, and as he slides by the leader, he does it. Cale Yarborough in car number 21 just did get by Leroy Yarborough, so he's running ahead of him, but he's just about 1 lap behind. At this point, it's Paul Goldsmith in third place. Then Darrell Derringer is in fourth. In fifth place is Cale Yarborough, 1 lap off the pace. So Leroy Yarborough has managed to maintain the lead for a number of laps here, despite the fact that the going has been very fast. And the hospital report is that Bobby Musgrover's condition is okay. He just has bruises, but he was involved in that 7-car smash-up just a little bit earlier in the afternoon. And there goes Cale Yarborough by Darrell Derringer. That means Cale has now moved into fourth. So it's Leroy, Donnie Allison, Paul Goldsmith, and now Cale Yarborough. It's really remarkable, too, that Musgrover came out of that accident, Chris Economaki, as well as he did, considering the impact with which he was hit.
I think it's a tribute to the roll bars and the other safety regulations imposed by NASCAR.
And here is Leroy Yarborough slowing down and spinning on the front straightaway. Leroy Yarborough is out of business. Something happened to his car right at the end of the front straightaway, and he is off the course, so we'll have to find out what happened there. So we'll dispatch Chris Economaki quickly, but he is out of it. And, a car up on the wall. Car number 59, Jimmy Hurtubise, spinning all over the track, or 2 other cars. Tiny Lund's involved. Car number 16, looked like Derringer was also involved. All of a sudden, Hurtubise went right up into the wall, almost leaped the wall, and the yellow caution flag is out. That's Hurtubise's car right there. Car number 59. Richard Petty was in that middle of that accident, but amazingly got through it. So as far as we can tell, only 3 cars are out of commission. Tiny Lund's car number 16, Darrell Derringer is out, and also Hurtubise. And now we understand that Chris Economaki has gotten to Leroy Yarborough to find out what happened to him as the cars come in under the yellow caution flag. Here's Donnie Allison in, and they're towing Darrell Derringer's car down in front of us. So now let's go down to Chris Economaki and get the first of what should be 2 stories.
What was the reason for your going out?
Well, I just noticed my oil pressure had fell at last lap, and so I just slowed down and came right on in the pit.
You were really running well before that, wasn't it?
Oh, the car was handling just beautiful.
And so hard luck continues to plague Leroy Yarborough, who is still looking for that first victory of the season on the nation's super speedways. Well, that was part 1 of what looked like a 2-part story. Let's try to find out what happened to the other cars from Chris Economaki.
Well, Dal, you had your problems again. What was it?
Well, I had a little difficulty coming off, too. Jim Hurtubise right in front of the lead cars. We just had a restart, you know, and when it come off, too, he kind of drifted up against the wall and pinned about 4 or 5 of us right against the wall. And as the beginning to the end, we just started spinning, and I must have been 6 to 8 cars spun.
What happened to your car?
Well, it demolished the car. It hit the front end, back end both.
Luck of racing, huh?
That's luck of racing, yes, sir.
So that was the story from Darrell Derringer, who is out of the race, and the green flag is out once again, with Paul Goldsmith in the lead, Donnie Allison in second, Cale Yarborough in third, and David Pearson is now in fourth. So we've had a high rate of attrition here this afternoon with several wrecks and cars being put out. The 7-car wreck, 6 were out of that. a 4 or 5 car accident, and 3 were out of that. Here's Donnie Allison in second place. In third place is Cale Yarborough. There he is right there, and David Pearson is right behind him. And we've just received word that Buddy Baker in car number 3 is driving out there without brakes. So that should be something. And here comes Paul Goldsmith, the leader, into the pits. Now that means that if Allison goes by him in his Ford, that means that Allison will take the lead. Now, curiously enough, Chris, Goldsmith is pitting on the green.
I can't understand it, Bill, and neither can the Dodge people. They were rooting for that Super B when it got in the lead.
So Allison is now charged into the lead in that red car number 27. And so with Donnie in the lead, it means that Cale moves up into second place, and David Pearson will move into third. That's when they get past Goldsmith. Here is Cale and David Pearson. So they are now past Goldsmith, and Goldsmith, when he comes back out, will be in 4th place in the overall standings. Oh, there's a car sliding. Car 0, Dr. Don Tarr, who was involved in the first accident of the day, is spun right there, but did not lose control of the car. Although the yellow caution flag is out, looks like he's going to continue. We'll be back with more from the Southern 500 in just a moment. A rather short caution light on the spin of Dr. Don Tarr, and the cars are back out running. Gave him just an opportunity for the pit stops. And right now, David Pearson is in first place with Donnie Allison in second, and Cale Yarborough is following Allison very closely for third. The car right behind them, car number 43, is Richard Petty, but Richard is 2 laps back. He's had a lot of time in the pits this afternoon. But Cale Yarborough, despite the fact that his car is battered and beaten, is still trying to move up on the leaders. And there you see them right in a row, Pearson, Allison, and Yarborough in that order.
Pearson's performance is remarkable today, Bill. Earlier this week, he had an ear infection, which upset his equilibrium and delayed his qualifying, and that's why he's starting so far back in the pack.
Well, he's done a great job of driving today, coming from 16th position to lead this race in car number 17. Car number 27 is Donnie Allison right behind him. Then car number 21, and there goes Cale Yarborough on the inside, trying to take Allison. And he takes him and cuts him off into the turn. A tremendous piece of driving by Cale Yarborough. Cale led a good deal of this race, then dropped out because of a long pit stop. Looking goal on the inside, and he takes Pearson for the lead on the same lap. He moved from third to first, and so it's Cale Yarborough in the lead, David Pearson in second place, and Donnie Allison right behind with Richard Petty running 2 laps back. He's the 4th car on the track there, and there is the time for Cale, 34.9 per lap. Figures out to be a little bit over 141 miles an hour. Here's what Cale Yarborough had to say before today's race.
Cale, Darlington is your home track. You live 10 miles away from here. Does it make any difference how you drive a race in your own backyard?
Well, I think it does, Chris. Maybe I try a little too hard here. I've never done anything here. We've run pretty good, but always something, seems like something always happens, and maybe it's just because I'm trying too hard here at home for the home folks, but we're going to try to do something about that today.
What about the track, Cale? They've changed it. Do you like the changes?
Well, Chris, I haven't seen much changes in it. They've put some bear grease down, they call it. It's a sealer that makes the track awful slick, and they've patched a few rough places, but the track is still rough, and it's still Darlington.
Do you consider it a dangerous track?
Not really. The speeds aren't as great here as they are at other racetracks, and due to the one grooves and the no passing areas, but you can really tear a car up here. You can get it into this 3rd and 4th turn wall and really beat a car up pretty bad.
Cale Yarborough, one of the leading candidates for the Driver of the Year award, and he's leading the race right now with David Pearson in car 17 second. There's Donnie Allison in car number 27 third, and Charlie Glotzback in car 6 is 4th. The green flag is now out following the spin by Charlie Glotzback, and some great pit work got Donnie Allison out in front of David Pearson and Cale Yarborough. So that's the way they're running right now. Now let's give you a rundown on the top 10. Allison, Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Buddy Baker, Richard Petty, Charlie Glotzback, Curtis Turner. There's a name that's popped into the top 6 right now. And car number 14, a 68 Plymouth. One of the real old-timers and one of the great favorites in racing. Paul Goldsmith, Bobby Allison, and Bud Moore in that order. And even though Richard Petty is running out in front of the pack, Richard is 2 laps down because of problems that he's had here this afternoon. They're the top 3 cars, Allison, Pearson, and Cale Yarborough in that order, and Cale hit the wall. He hit the wall and bounces right between those two cars. There is one of the most superb pieces of driving we'll ever see, Chris.
I agree with you, Bill, but it's remarkable in a 500-mile race at these speeds, the top 3 leaders are just on top of one another like this.
Cale Yarborough actually grazed the wall, and when he saw a little daylight open up between Pearson and Allison, he shot between them, never lifting his foot off that accelerator, and that moves him right past 2 cars into first place. Well, I don't know. He's really had things going for him today, and there's a car smoking. It's Petty. Richard Petty. Looks like he blew an engine right at the entrance to the pit area. And he's coming down here. His pit crew will be swarming all over that car, but it doesn't look very good. We'll send Chris Economaki down a little bit closer, and maybe we can get a description of it. But it looks like Richard Petty may be through for the afternoon. They're lifting the hood on the car. Donnie Allison is also slowed down. So at this point, it's Cale Yarborough in the lead. And there is Bobby Allison, followed by Charlie Glotzback. And they're lifting the hood on the car of Richard Petty, but things don't look good down there. Cale Yarborough, despite the fact that his car has a lot of bumps and dents in it, is still running very smoothly, and David Pearson is right behind him. Don't know the reason for Allison's slow up, but we'll try to find out that too. Now let's go down to Chris Economaki in Petty's pit.
What happened out there?
I guess it threw all the fan belts off of it, and it finally blew the engine.
You had quite a go early in the race, didn't you?
Well, the car run good. I made a pit stop right before the first caution. Got me a lap behind. I had to run a lap behind all day.
Was it a rough race for you, Richard? A lot of metal-to-metal contact?
Yeah, I got a little bit of scrape over there when 3 or 4 of them spun out, but I was lucky I got through it.
What do you think about Darlington now?
Well, it's just like it always was. It's pretty rough.
So Richard Petty is out of the race, much to the sadness of his fans here today. And look at the way these 2 cars are dueling. Right now it's a 2-car race between Cale Yarborough and David Pearson. It actually looked like Pearson bumped him for a moment. Cale, I think, again hit that wall. He's coming so close to the wall on the turns, it looks like he is just getting a grazing condition every time he goes by. Never seen a race in which Cale has been up against more metal and other cars and still running so hot. And there is the speed, 35 seconds flat, or 141.4 miles an hour. Pearson on the inside tried to take him. And they're absolutely right together, and Pearson bangs him into the wall again, and Pearson's in a spin. Cale gets through, and Pearson is down on the infield.
2 of the top drivers in the business, Bill. It's a rare occurrence.
Well, we have never seen action like that on the circuit in many, many a year, where they go 150, 160 miles an hour and actually are bumping each other like a set of billiard balls. Pearson back out running, but of course he's lost, well, let's see, almost 3/4 of a lap here. And so Cale Yarborough comes through once again, despite the fact that he banged the wall, but he's got a little bit of smoke coming out of that left front, and it may be that he's got some metal up against that tire.
Could be. The car is badly battered on both sides.
You know, Chris, I'd like to see the look on his face, because when he and Pearson tangled, it was Pearson who got the worst end of it, and now Pearson is coming into the pits. And so I imagine that we can look for Cale to be coming in also.
If he's got tire trouble, you know, the tires are probably flat-spotted on the number 17, and it's a tough break for Pearson here late in the going at this Southern 500.
And there goes Cale by David Pearson. That's exactly what he wanted to have happen, to get that 1 lap up on David Pearson, because it gives him just a little bit of breathing room. Pearson is still in the pits. They're pouring water on him. It's been a very hot afternoon. Everybody has felt it, and I'm sure the drivers are soaking wet right now. And the sign for Cale to come on into the pits. And we'll see what kind of damage has been done to that car, if there can be any more, and still keep it running. It truly is amazing. He's pointing to the, what is the left front, Chris?
It looks as though they are. Yep, there it is. They're going to work on it. The bodywork is up against the tire, and that accounted for the smoke.
Right, so they go to work on Cale Yarborough's car to try to get him out there before Pearson comes around. Some of the real drama connected here with stock car racing. He's off the jacks and out, and he is going to beat Pearson out on the track. So some great pit work and some tremendous driving by Cale Yarborough. And Yarborough has about an 18-second lead on Pearson. We'll be back in just a moment. Cale Yarborough still has the lead, and right behind him is David Pearson, and they have a 2-lap lead on Buddy Baker and Donnie Allison. Charlie Glotzback is 3 laps back, and Bobby Allison is 4 laps back, and there is Baker giving ground for Cale Yarborough to go through after Cale actually bumped the wall once again. He's almost using it this afternoon to propel himself through and get that extra little bit of miles per hour. It'll be kind of interesting, Chris, to speculate on how well there he is against the wall again. I was going to say, interesting to speculate how far Pearson is back and how much ground he's gaining. Have you watch on it?
He's gaining better than a second a lap, and that means he's going 4 miles an hour faster.
Have you ever seen a race in which a car has hit the wall or the guardrail as many times and still leads?
No, I haven't, Bill, nor have I seen a driver pick up so quickly as Pearson is picking up now.
Right, well, he's on the same lap, and there from David's crew is the indication he is 5 seconds back. Pearson is 5 seconds back, and at this point, it looks like he conceivably could catch him.
I guess so. Here's some bad news. Donnie Allison is out of it. His engine has failed in the number 27 Ford.
All right, Donnie Allison, who was very much in contention most of the afternoon, running up there in first for several laps, is now out of the race. That means that Glotzback will move up into 4th, and Bobby Allison will move up into 5th. And here comes Cale Yarborough just inching by that wall. And we have exactly 6 laps to go, and that means that if David Pearson can keep it up, he can actually go in front. There it is, 3.5 seconds, 3.5.
That shows a remarkable pickup job that Pearson has been doing in that number 17 car, and the fans are really hip to this auto race.
I don't think we've ever seen a race in which everybody stands when those cars come by and just cheer as loudly as they can cheer for their favorite driver. And now Buddy Baker is the only car that stands between David Pearson in 17 and also Cale Yarborough. Baker, however, is running in 3rd, and he's moving over, and that means Pearson is going to move up, and he'll be right behind Cale. There he is. He's only got about 5 car lengths, and he's gaining every second. And we have 4 1/2 laps to go. Pearson seems to be able to accelerate almost with ease. The question will be, can he get around?
Passing is always the problem here at Darlington, and you can bet Cale has got his one eye glued on that rearview mirror.
How true that is, because never has Cale Yarborough wanted a race more than he wants this one. 4 laps to go. And the pit crew of David Pearson urging him on. That's Dick Hutcherson there in the baseball cap with the blue shirt, former great driver himself, and is the crew chief of David's crew.
The crew is just about as excited as the fans here, Bill.
I was looking down at the Wood crew, too. Of course, they've had 3 great big wins on super speedways this year, but it doesn't dampen their enthusiasm at all. I think they're just amazed that that car has hung together as long as it has. Now, when they come by the start-finish line, they'll have 3 laps to go. It looks like a 2-car race at this point. And look how close Pearson is going to try to get him. And Cale has something left that closes the gate on him. He can't quite get by.
This is what they say the hallmark of a great driver is, Bill, a driver who can find something at the end of a race, something extra. And Pearson has certainly found that, picking up 18 seconds in the closing laps of this race.
Yes, but how can you say enough for Cale to close him out? Despite the fact that he's gained that much, he simply will not let Pearson by.
The race isn't over yet.
All right, we'll have 2 laps to go when they come down the straightaway. It doesn't seem to be a factor as far as gasoline or tires are concerned. It's just a question of whether they can hold out. Physically, it's been very punishing today, and I'm certain that you can see how damaging it's been as far as machinery is concerned.
They started this race in 1950, Bill, and it's called the Granddaddy of them all, and you can see why.
Now, as they come around this time, they will get the white flag, which will mean 1 lap to go, and only a car length separates David Pearson in car 17 from Cale Yarborough in car number 21. So we'll send Chris Economaki on his way to interview whichever one of these drivers crosses that finish line first and gets the checkered flag. Less than 1 3/8 to go. And this is where Pearson's going to have to make his move. Everybody is standing, everybody in the infield craning their necks to try to get a view of this finish line. They'll go into the number 3 turn. Pearson right up close, but somehow Cale fights him off, and there he gets a good break. There's a little traffic on the inside, and Pearson has to back off. Here's the last turn. And Cale's going to win it. The checkered flag is out for Cale Yarborough in one of the most thrilling finishes of all time, and it's dejection in the pit of David Pearson right now, and jubilation by the Wood brothers the pit crew of Cale Yarborough. What a race he ran today. And there in third place is Buddy Baker. And what a race he ran. Glotzback will finish in fourth place. And here comes Cale Yarborough, battered and worn and undoubtedly very tired. But I hope he has enough left to give us a word after this thrilling victory. Let's go down to Chris Economaki at the finish line. Chris?
Well, Cale, it must be a happy day for you, eh?
Chris, this is the happiest day of my life.
4 big speedway races, a new record in one season, and the first time victory before a hometown crowd.
Right, and do it at home, that makes it better than anything in the world.
Cale, what about the car? It looks battered on both sides. What kind of a race was it?
It was a pretty rough race all day long. It's the hardest race I ever ran, I think.
How are your hands?
Total.
Well, there you have it. Cale Yarborough, winner of the Southern 500, winner of 4 big speedway races. And now, back to Bill Fleming for the official rundown.
Right, Chris. And in first place, Cale Yarborough in a Mercury. David Pearson in a Ford in second. Buddy Baker in a Dodge in third. Charlie Glotzback in a Dodge in fourth. And Paul Goldsmith in a Dodge in fifth. Now a word with the disappointed David Pearson.
They're a tough kind to lose, aren't they, David?
Yeah, it is, especially when it was that close, and I did spin and come all the way up and catch him, but it just seemed like that I could get through 3 and 4 corner better than he could, and he could get through 1 and 2 better than I could, so in other words, he just won the race.
But you picked him up a good bit, but you caught him, and you couldn't get by. Why was that?
Well, I don't know. I think both cars was pretty well equal up the straightaways. Like I said, I couldn't get him coming off 4. If I come off number 4 corner real good, I could catch him 1 and 1. And but after me and him spun up there, I had a little get together there. It was just hard to do, and I couldn't ever get him no more.
Just racing, huh?
Just racing.
That's just about the story from the Darlington Raceway. Bill Fleming, along with Chris Economaki, saying so long.
The executive producer of ABC's Wide World of Sports is Roone Arledge. Southern 500 produced by Chet Forty and directed by Lester Becker. Olympic gymnastic trials produced by Dick Kirchner and directed by Robert Rieger. Associate director in Darlington, Don Ohlmeyer. Coordinating producer, Jim Spence. Next week on ABC's Wide World of Sports, the National Drag Racing Championships and International Figure Skating from West Berlin. Now this is Bill Fleming along with Chris Economaki saying so long from Darlington.